Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the YALI Network for today's discussion about entrepreneurship. My name is Shona Carter, and I am the Gender and Entrepreneurship Officer for the Bureau of African Affairs here at the U.S. Department of State. I'm excited to moderate today's conversation with our impressive lineup of panelists who will share their own journeys and offer insights into building a sustainable business. Before we get started, I have the pleasure of introducing Deputy Assistant Secretary, the Bureau of African Affairs, Joy Basu, who will be providing some opening remarks. Basu oversees economic and regional affairs across sub-Saharan Africa. Her portfolio includes commercial diplomacy, trade and investment, strategic competition, food security, climate, energy, democracy, human rights, and multilateral affairs. Immediately prior to this appointment, Basu served in the U.S. Department of Justice as senior counsel to the Deputy Attorney General. Before joining the Biden administration, Basu worked in business at the nexus of investment, innovation, and development. So without further ado, Basu, over to you.
Thank you, Shona, and thank you to the YALI team and the network for pulling us together. And importantly, thank you to our panelists who will be joining us and all our wonderful colleagues who are joining from around the world and around the continent for this session. I hope you have a productive conversation and that today is a day that both inspires you but also informs you. I really appreciate you all taking the time to talk about your entrepreneurial journeys, because I know from my own experience that an entrepreneurial journey is not just a professional experience, it's a deeply personal experience in which you'll learn a lot about your leadership style, about what matters to you, and about the skills that you didn't even know you had. And so there'll be moments that are very difficult ahead, but please know that you're not alone and that so many people believe in you, including the people on this call. You know, I really believe, and one of the reasons I do this work, and it came from the private sector and the business world, to take this role is I believe that entrepreneurship can and must lead a new era of African economic development. And there are three reasons that I believe that, and I know Shona believes that, and our entire team here at the Bureau of African Affairs tries to advocate for that and for those policies that enable entrepreneurship to thrive more in Africa. First, we know from the data that entrepreneurship is an integral part of economic development. It's a cliche example, perhaps, but when we look at the fintech space in Africa, we see all the incredible innovation that's been happening. And we see some of the most extremely powerful business models and enabling economic tools that are making companies more profitable, more sustainable, and making things more transparent. This is not just one way to grow economy, but it's a way for the economy to grow multiple economies. And so that's why we really want to support entrepreneurship. The second reason is that this is a really integral part of African history. We know that the African entrepreneurship spirit is multiple generations, and that whether it's running small and medium enterprises or finding new ways of cross-border trade, that this is something that is not new to Africans and the African culture, and we want to make sure, therefore, it's able to thrive in the economy and in these policies that we see being implemented. And third, I believe this because I believe that the world needs African entrepreneurship. When we think about the challenges of climate, when we think about the challenges of hunger, we need the brain power, the hustle, the innovation, the different way of seeing things that African entrepreneurs bring. We need to solve these problems faster, and we need African brilliance to be a part of those solutions. And so I don't know how the world achieves the Sustainable Development Goals without having African entrepreneurship as a part of the equation. So again, thank you for that, and thank you for what you bring. As governments, we have a vital role to play in creating an enabling environment. That includes for entrepreneurs generally, and also for African women-owned businesses, which account for the highest proportion of women entrepreneurs in the world. The highest proportion of women entrepreneurs are in Africa, which, you know, is not surprising to me at all. And I don't think will be surprising to many of you on this call, although it might be surprising to some who aren't here. This is one of the reasons that the United States relaunched a program called AWEP, which stands for the African Women's Entrepreneurship Program. And it's a program that Shona helps to oversee here in the Bureau of African Affairs. AWEP is a women's outreach, education, and entrepreneurship initiative that supports the growth, profitability, and export of women-led businesses in Africa through access to capital, access to markets, skills, and additional capacity building. In fact, next week, one of the meetings I was just coming from was with our assistant secretary, where she's going to be traveling to Senegal and will visit the newest recipient of an AWEP grant, which is a significant grant. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shona, but I think it's $100,000. And she's going to speak to the employees of that entrepreneur in that company who this grant and this work is seeking to empower. The United States is also partnering with organizations like the AFCFTA to help establish a small business development center using a proven model the US has supported in other regions to help entrepreneurs come to brainstorm, to get skills, and to grow their businesses. These are targeted programs to support the growth and profitability of businesses that are run by women, by youth, and my other minorities across Africa. Of course, this is all in addition to the United States' signature effort to invest in the next generation of African leaders, which you all know very well, the Youth African Leaders Initiative, YALI, which provides African youth with opportunities to enhance their leadership skills and develop ties with US citizens, businesses, organizations, and their peers. So the YALI Network includes 7,200 alumni through the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program, which actually just celebrated its 10-year anniversary this year, as well as the regional leadership centers, which there are 27,000 graduates of, which will celebrate its 10-year anniversary next year. So the YALI Network, which brings us together today, serves as YALI's digital public diplomacy and engagement platform. It's more than 600,000 members, hail from a myriad of nations, professions, and sectors, which is one of the reasons it makes it so exciting, so interesting, such a place for cross-pollination and good ideas. As YALI continues to grow each year, so does its influence through the work of alumni and other members of the network who share their experiences and model community service, civic engagement, and ethical leadership, which goes hand in hand with entrepreneurship, in my opinion, because for me, we think about entrepreneurship when it comes to the economy, but I think there are so many values that are interlaced with a democracy, especially the belief that the answers lie with the people, and that together, working together and sharing our ideas, we can come up with better businesses, better solutions, whether that's in the public sector and that's in the private sector. So I really see this being a really integrated effort between economic development and democratic values. So today's wonderful panelists are great examples of that. They span maternal health care, renewable energy, business consulting, and vocational development. And these are all through YALI Network members that have been through all stages of the entrepreneurship journey. And they've had big wins and big losses. And I hope that they'll be vulnerable and share those with you so that when you achieve your big wins and big losses, you feel both grateful, but also less alone. And they're here to tell you how they tackled these challenges today, and to think through how to run a state. And that's to think through, your own businesses, your own ideas, scaling what you have or starting with something new. As YALI Network members, you have already shown your commitment to becoming a positive force for change in your community. So thank you for that. I'm confident that the stories you hear today will inspire you. They always inspire me. I trust that you'll be able to take at least one piece of advice and apply it to your own endeavor. And my advice to you at the beginning will be to write that down and really think about what's one thing I'm going to take away. I'm sure there'll be more than one, but then check back in with yourself in a month or 6 months and say, okay, this is one thing I said I would do coming out of that conversation on October 31st. Have I done it? How has it played out? And no matter where you are in your journey, I hope that you will keep in touch with this group of people because, again, it can be a lonely journey, but you're not alone. And so I hope you'll find inspiration, friendship, fellowship with the others on this call, and that I can't wait to hear about the things that you innovate, the ways that you grow, the ways you impact your communities, and the ways you help us change the world, because the world really needs you. And I take a lot of faith and inspiration in Africa's youth for giving us a better tomorrow. So without further ado, let me hand it back to you, Shona, and thank you all again for having me today. I'm so excited to be with you.
Thank you, Basu, for those great insights and for kicking off today's session. For today's conversation, I'm excited to be joined by Adepeju Jaiyeoba, Pritchard, also known as Chad Miyako, and Shay Ringiu. Adepeju an attorney and litigator from Nigeria, invented the mother's delivery kit after the death of a close friend during childbirth. The social venture has since provided quality sterile supplies to more than 500,000 mothers and their babies. She also founded Brown Button Foundation, which has trained more than 6,000 birth attendants across the country. Then we have Chad Miyako from Zimbabwe, whose entrepreneurial spirit is inspired by his father, who ran a rural business that created jobs for their local economy. An impact entrepreneur and management consultant, Chad is a partner at Baker Tilly Capital and co-founder and director of Energy Nearing Africa, where he's at the forefront of integrating renewable energy solutions to tackle everyday challenges faced by businesses and communities in Southern Africa. And lastly, Shing Riniu from Cameroon, who has trained over 600 individuals since 2019 in entrepreneurial skills through the Leslie Foundation. He recently trained 50 rural women in business development and 30 young girls in soap production. Shay also serves as a volunteer mentor under the Ministry of Youth and Civic Education, where he has mentored over 80 youth projects. I don't know about you, but I'm already very inspired. So let's begin. Before I dive into questions, I want to encourage everyone watching to submit questions in the Facebook event under the comment section as we go along, because at the end, we will have some time where we aim to take at least a question or two from that chat. So please feel free to participate, those of you who are tuning in from Facebook and have access to that chat. So for the first question, I'd like to get to know our panelists a bit more. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves and tell us about their businesses. When did you get started in your business? How has it grown over the years? That sort of thing. So let's get started with Adepeju.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening from Nigeria. It's evening here. It's such a pleasure to be live with everyone this evening. My name is Adepeju Jaiyeoba. I'm a 2014 Mandela Washington Fellow. I am passionate about business, entrepreneurship, in whatever angle, from whatever position. I founded Brown Button Foundation in 2011, also founded Mother's Delivery Kit in 2011, and also now currently work as a partner in a law firm in Nigeria. My background is law. I am passionate about women and children. Everywhere you find me, it would always be around rights, justice, access for women and children. That's where you would find me. Any conversation. Mention it 3 times in front of your mirror, I would appear. You would see me there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Adepeju. And Chad, over to you.
Hello, Maineru Makadi. How are you? My name is Chad from Zimbabwe. I am an impact entrepreneur. Started off my career working for a pension fund, where I was involved in managing a large property portfolio, where I got to interact with quite a number of entrepreneurs. And I would be tasked with making sure that they continued being my tenants, continued to perform in terms of payment of rentals. And that sort of got me somewhat involved in their business. Their businesses became my business. And in 2018, I decided to walk away from full-time entrepreneurship, from full-time employment, to become a full-time entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since 2018. Started off with a manufacturing business that sadly failed. And then I got involved in the renewable energy business and as well as the management consulting space. I've been involved in the management consulting space since 2019. Recently as July, my business got co-opted into an international network called Baker Tilly, which operates over 600 offices worldwide. So we merged our business into that. So currently I'm a partner at Baker Tilly, focusing on management consulting and corporate finance, basically, helping, African opportunities access markets and finance. Thank you.
Wow, incredible. Thank you for that, Chad. And lastly, Shay, over to you. Tell us about your business.
Hi everyone, I'm Ringnu from Cameroon. I'm a youth volunteer. I'm a volunteer mentor. Always tell everyone I'm a volunteer. So I started way back in 2017 as a volunteer with the Ministry of Youth Affairs, where I lead school campaigns and education programs. And in 2018, I started the Leslie Foundation, where our main focus was in inspiring, mentoring, and educating young people to take up leadership position in the community. And in 2019, where we legally registered and we engaged in our community in programs where we empowered women and training young girls on entrepreneurship, because I believe when a woman is being trained and is educated, the community is safe. The community that's the first step in fighting poverty and eradicating any form of gender disparities in the community. So as the Leslie Foundation, we're able to train over 600 community members, women to be precise. We've trained women, that's in the conflict affected communities in the northwest and southwest region of Cameroon. And like Chanel mentioned earlier, we recently trained 50 young royal women on entrepreneurship. And as the Leslie Foundation, we've been able to work with the Ministry of Youth Affairs, where we mentor young people that the project can be funded by the Ministry of Youth Affairs, because we believe that the young people lack mentorship, and that's where they have been falling. Businesses are not working because of lack of mentorship. So we believe so much in the strength of mentorship and support that young people need. And currently, we are launching a project where because I actually, just of recent, I participated in the first Pan-African Conference on Women and Girls Education in Africa, where I was one of the panelists in the Youth Innovative Space, where I spoke about early childhood education as a means of breaching the gender disparities in women empowerment and girls education in Africa. So just to share another milestone, where I was recognized just yesterday by the U.S. Embassy in Cameroon during the celebration of the American Corner in Boya 20 years anniversary. I was received a certificate of appreciation for my support in their programs and activities. So I think in the course of the discussion, I'm going to share more and also give some tips on what we have been doing and more. Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. I really appreciate all of the focus and emphasis on supporting women, youth. As the gender equity lead for the Bureau and the entrepreneurship officer, this is really quite central to my portfolio and my interests. And it's just really inspiring to hear you guys right off the bat discuss your work in that space. So we can get started with the first question. So we know that once you have a business idea, you need to find clients. Adepeju, can you speak a bit about building a customer base? How did you market your business to find customers, especially when you're just getting started?
Thank you very much for that question, Shona. And I absolutely love that question. I'll tell you why. Many times people think that you need to have some kind of connections, you need to have strong networks, you need to have, some kind of powerful background or some rich and influential background to be able to build successful businesses. And that's why I find your question very, very important, for me today. So for me, I think, and I don't know if you can still hear me. So for me, I think that it is important for people to know that you can start your business from scratch without knowing anybody. The only thing you have to do is open your mouth, consciously meet people. And I would start by saying, or by sharing my experiences around how I build customer base for all my businesses. And I have 3 of them that I currently, I'm involved in. I founded 2 and currently sit on the board of those 2. And then I'm actively involved in 1. So for Brown Button Foundation in 2011, my friend died at childbirth, and I really wanted to start something in the space of healthcare, maternal and child health, because it was deeply touching for me. She had her whole life ahead of her. She was best graduating of her set, and then she had to just die bringing life. It did not make sense to me. So what did I do? I went online. I didn't have anybody. My mom is a retired primary school teacher, same for my dad. So there was really nobody, no strong influential background or anything like that. But one thing they made us aware of is, you know what? Just believe in yourself. We give you education, and then believe that if we have invested in you by educating you, then you believe in yourself to take first foot forward. And that's what I did online on Facebook. And I remember then I had sent out different emails to different people telling them, I wanted to start this organization. I wanted to train medical. I wanted to train traditional birth attendants. I had done my research, extensive research, read different books in that area. So I was coming from a point of knowledge. I had also spoken to people who were medical doctors. And so I reached out to a number of people. And then out of, I think about 21 or 11 or 17 emails that I sent out at that time, DMs that I sent out at that time on Facebook, only one came back. And that man was a House of Reps member, House of Assembly member, who, unknown to me, his mom had died at childbirth. And so because of that connection, because of his own experience, he replied. And that's how Brown Button Foundation kicked off, with his funds. And then I only had to coordinate. I had to go into communities. He just said, you know what? Here's the money. This is what he said you want to do. I lost my own mother at childbirth. And so I believe in this thing that you want to do. It is important. And so that's how Brown Button kicked off. And then in the course of Brown Button Foundation, we started discovering that as you are training birth attendants, you need to provide them with sterile supplies that they need at childbirth. That's number 2, need. So after you open your mouth and start talking to people, and one person gives you that opportunity, from that opportunity, make sure you build another bridge that can continue to make business or that opportunity sustainable for you. You have to continue to search deeper. I understand that you don't have to solve all the problems, but if your problem would not allow the results of your efforts show, then you need to tackle that problem. It tells you that that is not the root cause of the problem. So we are training birth attendants, but at the same time, we are telling them use sterile supplies. But these people don't even have access to sterile supplies. So basically, what we are doing does not touch the root of their problems. And so I started Mother's Delivery Kit in 2014, and we continued in that light. And then recently, I now discovered that there's the issue of rights, there's the issue of access to justice for many women and their children. Many people in the cities, when they give birth, it's the problem of negligence. In the rural communities, the problem of access. And so that's why I said, anywhere you mention justice, rights, say 3 times in front of me, I will be there. You would see me. So open your mouth is the number 1 rule. Even for the law firm, I can tell you where I met my first client. It was on a plane. So I don't just sit down and cross my hands. I'm constantly thinking, what's the next step? Where do I want to be? Who can help me get to this place? I look for opportunities that can push me. I look for conferences I can attend that can push me to that level. I read documents, I read processes, I go to different websites to be able to learn. So understand, read. There's no two-way about it. You know what? If I give you the opportunity, you must say something that is reasonable. I must be able to believe in you. I must be able to decide that, yes, this person is worth it, this person knows what he is saying. And then when you have the force of the YALI network, add that to your knowledge base. Everything is already easy. The gates are wide open for you to walk in. It now depends on the style you want to use to walk, whether you want to limp, you want to hop, you want to run, you want to catwalk or dog walk or whatever it is. But the door is flung open for you. Once knowledge is number 1. Once you acquire that knowledge, seek opportunities. Don't be afraid. See, God does not kill anybody. People say no, they reject it. But if I start going through the list of the people who said no to me, it gets anybody. So many of them we've now come back to be business partners. We've now come back to be friends. We've now come back to see other things that we can do together. So no doesn't kill. And delay, of course, is not denial, as they say. We move forward, we continue to project. How to build your client base? 1 is open your mouth. 2 is develop yourself, because you see, when the opportunity comes, you must be in the right position with right knowledge and requisite capacity to be able to make use of opportunity. Principle of all is mentoring. Get a mentor. When you have problems identifying opportunities, because not everybody can identify opportunities immediately, but by the time you talk to people in your circle, it helps to enrich your knowledge. And then you are able to also identify opportunities when it comes along. Some opportunities don't come twice. You must be prepared and well positioned to attain those customers and get them in. Thank you.
Thank you, Adepeju, for those powerful words about really trusting in yourself, which I think is a great segue to my next question, which is for Shay. So we know that it's so important for entrepreneurs to have a support network. So Shay, you've mentored many youth who are looking to start up, scale up their businesses. What role does mentorship play in this process? And what is your personal experience with mentorship?
Thank you so very much. I think this is a very important question too to me, because I think my initiative started because of mentorship and because I had a mentor that could help me through. I think mentorship for entrepreneurs is very, very important because it's where you go, transfer of knowledge and experience comes in. Because when I was about starting my organization, I had a mentor who was his division sub-delegate who was in charge of youth affairs. So when I went to him, I'm like, oh, this is what I'm working on. This is what I want to do. And when I shared the idea about what I want to do, and he helped me, we had some series of sessions together, and he shared with me the challenges I was going to meet and some of his experiences and how he overcame those challenges. And I think mentorship will help you to be able to understand what you are about to do and how you can be able to meet challenges and how you'll be able to overcome them. Because firstly, in entrepreneurship, you're looking at solving a community problem. You're not looking at making money. I know that at the end you are making money, but you should be able to know that you are identifying a community problem. And it's a mentor that will be able to help you to know that, okay, this is the area you're passionate about. Is it just about women education? What is that problem causing to the community? When women are not educated, what is the problem that is bringing to the community? When youth are not positioned well, what is the problem that is bringing to the community? And when the mentor helps you to be able to understand that, you will be able to shape your business, you'll be able to shape your ideas, to be able to address community problem. That is also helping you to be to call customers to your business. The same like the question you asked to Pajo, you realize that when you have a mentor that helps you transfer the knowledge and the ideas and transfer experience, you'll be able to call up customers to your business. For instance, in 2018, when I had my first ever workshop with young people, within that period we had lockdown. That was within the heart of the crisis in Cameroon. So when I sat at home, the idea came about it. I was like, what is happening to us as young people? School was going on, and a week, everything has shut down. We cannot go to school. We are not doing anything. What can we do? So immediately I got to my mentor and I discussed the idea of what I wanted to do. And he was able to mobilize resources. Resources is not in terms of finance, but in terms of resource person. He connected me to people who were able to help me to achieve that. And within that period, we were able to train 60 young people who were able to start remote businesses and got into other online training programs. And that is because of mentorship. Mentorship is like when you are an old person, you are looking for somebody who is going to hold you, or somebody who is going to lead your way, somebody who has been there before. And in African parlance, we usually say, when you have an elder brother who is on top of a plum tree, you are not going to eat the plum that is not healthy. It's the same thing with mentorship. When you have a mentor in business, it's going to be difficult for your business to crumble. So I think mentorship is like a pillar in entrepreneurship that is going to help your business stand firm. And you cannot go alone. It's mentorship that will be able to help you to identify your path and be able to know where to go to. And sustainability of your business comes in when you have somebody who is directing you and is guiding you, and somebody who you are accountable to. Most of the time, a challenge we have as young people is accountability. But once you have a mentor who you are accountable to, somebody who you go back to and you report yourself, and the person say, oh, you did this and it did not go well. And I will say from myself, that is what has helped me to be who I am today. Is from mentorship that has helped me to be a mentor to other young people. And it's from my mentor that I got a recommendation to be a mentor to other young people. And the standing of my organization and the legalization of my business today is because of my mentor.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I know, once a business is established, people often look to expansion. So, Chad, you have been through a merger. Your company, Adepeju Consulting, merged with Baker Tilly. Can you speak a bit about what it's like to go through a merger? What advice would you give to entrepreneurs looking to expand their business in this way or in a similar way?
Thank you, Shona. Yeah, so mergers are quite complex at times, but they can also be very simple. And what do I mean by this? A colleague of mine once said something that I felt was quite profound. He said that small businesses in Africa need to merge, not just for growth, but also for survival. We find that a lot of people are trying to build in silos where they're building something very small on this corner, someone else is building something very small in another corner, and someone else is trying to build almost the same thing, but in a different corner. And oftentimes, all of these people who are trying to build these very small silos in their own small little corners find themselves struggling to grow. One, because they're cannibalizing off each other's market. Number two, because they're under-resourced. Number three, because they individually may have massive strength, but if they're operating in isolation, this strength will not be valuable to each one of them. So for us, I think the primary objective of merging was the realization that there were strengths that we had, but also limitations. And those limitations turned out to be the strength of the partner that we ended up merging with. The process of merging, obviously, there's issues around evaluation, company valuations and so forth. But for us, we were quite fortunate because we are in the service industry, and knowledge is our capital. So it was relatively easier in terms of getting past the due diligence, getting past the exchange of information, getting past the valuation. The most important thing for us, I think, was a culture fit. We, being a small business that had its own agility, that had its own ways of doing things, we didn't want to get involved with a very big multinational corporation that would stifle us in terms of our focus area, the clients that we serve, in terms of the product offering, in terms of our own internal systems. As you know, bureaucracy and innovation don't necessarily coexist. So that was a very key thing for us when we were going in. We wanted to be in a space where we would be able to exercise our agility. And I think part of our arrangement allowed us to have that kind of agility, allowed us to have that kind of flexibility. So for me, I think it's important for small businesses right across Africa to start considering, collaborating, partnering, and working with other smaller businesses, either consolidating their efforts, coming together to jointly co-bid on certain opportunities, even if it's not a formal partnership or it's not a merger of any sort, but just coming together and realizing that there's power in being able to collaborate. Number one, there's also power in being able to subordinate your own vision to something that's even bigger than what you could be seeing. More often than not, as entrepreneurs, we feel that we have to own everything. And there's this, saying that says you would rather own a certain percentage of an elephant than 100% of an ant. So it's part of why we need to start considering partnering. We need to start considering other options outside just, I need to raise capital. It could just be getting into a network that allows you to extend your reach. So we were operating in Zimbabwe. We merged with Baker Tilly, in particular Baker Tilly Capital. And now we have access to international markets. We have access primarily to the Central African region, which is Zambia, Malawi, Botswana, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. Just by getting involved with a brand that has bigger capabilities in certain areas, we also had our own capabilities, but together we've created somewhat of a Voltron sort of institution that allows us to compete better, that allows us to serve clients better, that allows us to have much more impact. So if you are an entrepreneur out there who's thinking of how do I create impact, I think you should then be considering some of these options that are available to you. And back to what I started with, you don't necessarily just need to merge for growth. Sometimes you need to merge for survival. A lot of businesses are facing mortality because they are spread thin, they have limited resources, they have limited capacity, and you can actually bolster that capacity by partnering with like-minded. So it has to be, alignment in terms of values. There has to be alignment in terms of vision. There has to be alignment in terms of what you consider important. And there also has to be alignment in terms of what core capabilities can you actually bring together to create a commercially viable partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ted. I really actually like this question because I think, in my opinion, it's underrepresented sometimes in these conversations, a question about merging and the challenges of staying afloat by yourself. So really appreciate your insights and ability to speak to that. So we do have a few more questions. So I'd like to remind the panelists to try to keep them brief, although I know it's very difficult. You all have incredible commentary and insights to offer. So this next question I'd like to ask of all of you, what was the biggest challenge you have faced and how did you overcome it? How can entrepreneurs stay resilient and motivated when the going gets tough? And I guess we can start with you, Chad.
All right, thank you. So I think the biggest challenge was our own ambitions. In 2018, as I mentioned, I was involved in the manufacturing space, and we had set out some very positive projections. We had done our market sizing. We had done everything on paper that one needed to do. And the next thing that we needed was to raise capital. We had raised some internal. We had secured money from friends, family, and fools who had come on board as the early investors. But we needed more money to sail through a certain transition that we wanted to sail through. And we borrowed money from a loan shark. And I mentioned this because I know that a lot of African entrepreneurs do not have ready access to patient capital. And often there's a temptation to look at your financial projections and say, look, they look very optimistic, they look very great, what could go wrong? And then you go out there recklessly to look for money that's expensive, to look more for money that is tied down in very terrible conditions. And we did that. We got money from a loan shark, and our projections didn't quite add up. And when they didn't add up, we didn't actually overcome. And I'm giving this as an example because half the time we, as entrepreneurs, we like to point out to the things that went right. I'm pointing to this because I know a number of entrepreneurs who are actually struggling with this, where they've been very optimistic around their projections. They've gone on to source capital with very stringent, difficult conditions, and that has put them in a very difficult position personally, professionally, and just the going concern of their business has been put at risk. So for us, overcoming came in the form of a pivot. That business had to fail. It collapsed. We managed to repay the loan shark, but by the time that we were able to repay the loan shark, the business was already facing challenges amongst the partners. There were now disagreements in regards to how we had managed to settle that money. It was facing challenges in terms of working capital. There were other challenges in the market space. So it failed, but that failure allowed us to pivot into something else different. But most importantly, it's a lesson that I would want other African entrepreneurs to take, to say, no matter how optimistic your financial projections are, fight off the temptation to get easy money, fight off the temptation to get money from a loan shark. Think about it, think twice before you accept that money.
Again, very valuable remarks. Thank you for that. So over to you, Shay. Same question about your biggest challenge and how you overcame it, and this speaking to the question of staying resilient.
Okay, thank you very much. I think one of my biggest challenge was building a team. I've been this guy that loves to work in the comfort of my zone and work alone and doing everything alone. And that became a challenge when I started Leslie Foundation, because building a team was a big problem for me. Like everywhere you have to see me, and when we started, you have a team today, tomorrow there is nobody, because I put myself first. That was my major challenge, putting myself first. So overcoming it, I had to go on courses. I did some extra training on building team and how to build a team. So I think today we are able to have a team and we are working with a team, because first I had to go for knowledge. How do I be a team? That's the first thing I had to look for. And who should be your team member? Those were the questions. Those were questions I was asking. And is it everybody that is interested in the business that you should bring on board? Those were questions I actually asked myself. Like, because I was curious, I was just bringing everybody on board. You are interested, I bring you without knowing what you're coming to contribute. But after undergoing trainings and seeking knowledge and understanding what team building is and the role of team members, I was able to identify that, okay, if I'm bringing this person should be able to handle this, and this is clear responsibilities. I'm giving clear responsibilities, because before I was unable to give responsibilities. That was a challenge in building the team. You bring people, they are just there, they don't know what they have to contribute, and with time they leave because they feel like they are not important, they are not part of the team, they don't feel inclusive. So I had to learn how to differentiate from a key team player and a passive team player and a silent team player, where I know that, okay, active team player is this person that is always there, he's proactive, he's contributing to the vision, and he comes up with new ideas to what I was not thinking about. And then we have passive, who are those who are just hand clappers, and you have who are just hand clappers. They're just there, they're clapping for you, they might not really say anything, and they are behind the stage. You never see them in front, where they call you to action all the time. I report to them like the mentors and the patrons of the organization. Those are key team players that we do not have. And also, we have, for now, you will see that we've overcome the challenge by building a team. We have a team of eight members that are working with us, and we have over 15 volunteers that are in the community that we are working with. We have active volunteers, and we have volunteers that come in only when we have maybe an activity that is related to school. Like currently, we are running an activity in secondary schools and primary school, where we are doing sensitization on youth empowerment, the aspect of misinformation, and being the key actors of fighting misinformation and other ills within the community. We have key volunteers that comes in just within that period. So overcoming this challenge was learning, identify what was the main challenge, which I have mentioned, and learning how to overcome it. And today we are having a team that is behind the stage, and in front we are doing it, 8 of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shay, for that. And then same question for you, Adepeju.
So for me, 2 challenges I would identify. The first would be human resource. The second would be the gender status of women in across board in societies, whether developed, rural or urban societies, in my own experience. So human resource, because you see, it's a challenge. When you are into, whether it is production of products or services, getting the right set of people with the right mindset, to believe in the vision that you're running with has constantly been a challenge for us across all the businesses. You know, I have seen it consistently across even the law practice. It's the same. You know, so it's something that I found really worrying. In the beginning, it used to be very troubling, you know, especially when it comes to if you're doing something around, you know, for instance, mother's delivery kits, you just find out that someone has packed some bathing soap and they've taken them home to go use for their personal families or personal use. They've taken this, they've taken that, you know, and they're constantly trying to find a way to put the economic challenges of the country on your own business, forgetting that you yourself, you are just trying to hold on to the pillars of your business to survive, and that you need this accountability to be straight. So those are the challenges that I have faced. Also, gender status of women is a challenge. It is even an unexpected challenge, even in professional environment. I have attended meetings where, you know, they would say, okay, so tell us what you can do. Nobody starts a business discussion with a man asking what they can do. They start it on the premise that they know what to do. But you, a woman, would need to justify yourself 10 times over and prove to them that you can actually do this. And it's the same thing for the people that call upon you to even help them. They will start on the premise of, I don't know if you have done this type of thing before. But nobody starts a discussion with a man by saying, I don't know if you have done this type of thing before. And I expected to have done it. So those remain challenges women continue to face. They need permission to attend antenatal. They need permission to even pack, as they're packing their bag for delivery, they have to call that, look, I'm having pain, so I'm going to the hospital now. Oh, I'm going for antenatal. I understand the information, keeping up with it, but there's a thin line between that and even right to determine what happens to your own body, right to determine your own access and freedom. So those are constant challenges that I have faced in this particular line of business and all the businesses that I run together. It has been a constant feature. There was even an experience that I had where someone tried to get me off a particular project. And when we had discussions around it, I was the only woman in the group. So they said, no, because you are the only woman, apologize to this person. And then he would apologize to you. And then because it was going to be a mutual apology, Shona, I said, okay, you know what? I'm really sorry for everything that has happened and everything. And then the next night, I had, oh no, it's normal. I just took it as one of my girlfriends offending me. And I'm like, excuse you? One of your girlfriends offending you? And then he now did his own apology. And I told him that I took it as one of my boyfriends offending me. And then he took offense. I'm like, this thing does not even make sense. But that is the situation we have found ourselves as women, communities across Africa. We continuously face these challenges, this pushback, no matter how educated, no matter how high you have risen. It happens. It happens every single time. It happens in 2024. I guarantee you it will happen in 2030. But women must continue to hold on. And I'm sorry I'm bringing a gender, but that has been my own challenge, particularly in businesses. Even for them to give you funding, you know, you have to state different things that they would not even ask a man for. And then you are constantly under the risk of being, you know, being sexualized, being harassed because you're raising funds. Those are issues. Those are important issues for us as women. How have we been able to survive this? I have, because of this, tried to build a sustainable business. I do not have to go and knock on anybody's door. I want to be able to grow at a pace that is acceptable, a pace that I can see progress, a pace that customers see the need of what I am providing. They see value in the services I am rendering. And because of that, they are willing to part with money for me to grow my business steadily, gradually, slowly. I mean, Shona, it might be slow, but we will get there. It might not be as fast, but we will definitely get there. So it's been a gradual stage of growth and a gradual stage of building sustainability around all the businesses, the ones I sit on the board of, the ones I'm currently involved in. That has been my focus. And understand that these pillars are important. We continue to hold on strong to these pillars in the hope that someday, these things will be read in history books and people would marvel at what women in the past went through. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adepeju, for that. Very true. Again, I'm always going to appreciate the emphasis on gender equity and the unique challenges that women face. And I guess we can stay with you for this next question. I'd like you to take more of a bird's eye view now in looking at the entrepreneurs that you've encountered. Why do you think some of them have failed from your perspective? And what are the biggest mistakes and misconceptions that you've seen?
Shona, I don't think anybody starts a business and sets out to fail. I don't think that it is anybody's dream, goal, or vision to have a record of failures. But failure is also an essential part of growth, an essential piece of the puzzle on the journey to success. It must be. And so we all have failure stories, trust me. We can go on and on and on about different things we have failed at. Nobody sets out to fail. However, these are learning that we have taken in the course of our journey. And so I would speak from that angle to be able to x-ray what I think from my own experiences and from the experience of those around me and the people I have had opportunities to interact with, what I think has been some of the major challenges that they have faced. The first thing I would say is lack of sustainability plan. So you hear that people are winning grants, $50,000, $100,000, $20,000, and people are raising seed funding, $1 million seed funding. They are now unicorn. And so because of that, you start a business. And then you get these funds. You get the funding, the grants, rolls in first year, rolls in second year, third year, they decide they want to fund another aspect. The question to ask yourself, if your funder pulls out the plug on your business today, will your business survive? Will it live? Do you have the customer base to sustain that business? Do you actually have a business? Very important, because sometimes you have something that appears to be a business, but it's not actually a business. Who is buying from you? How many are they? What is the profitability metrics looking like? What is your revenue? How much are you generating? How many customer base do you have? Those are hard questions. You must sit down in the corner of your room quietly where nobody sees you to answer as deeply honest as you can. If the funder pulls the plug today, can you survive? That's number one. Many people fail in entrepreneurship because they do not have sustainability plans. The second thing is many people fail in entrepreneurship because they do not have mentors. If you have mentors, the advantage of it is that you'll be able to stand on the shoulders of people and then you can see further. You can also learn from their own experiences. And it doesn't mean have one mentor. People are good in different areas. You can have several mentors. You know what they are contributing to your life, the aspect of business that they are actually very good at and can provide advice in respect of. You model them. These are people that are successful in that area. And so you constantly want to learn from them and their mistakes. Because why would you have a mentor and you repeat the same mistake as your mentor? You have not learned anything. So the lack of mentorship is also what I think. The third thing I would say is not listening to your customers. So you started out doing A, but customers are constantly telling you that maybe if you add B, maybe they need B, they need C. I understand you cannot do everything, but listen to your customers, because if you don't listen to them, one day they will go to where they are being listened to. And as a business person, tell me one reason why you are leaving money on the table. You do not have any reason to leave a single dime on the table. Every dime is up for grabs. And you must work around your business to pick each and every one of the dime on the table. Never leave a dime behind. Listen to your customers. I had a friend once who ran a daycare business, and I'm sorry for taking your time, Shona. I'm really sorry. I had a friend once who ran a daycare business, and people used to tell her that, we would like to see, we professional women drop their children in daycare. But, they also want to be able to know, because sometimes this thing happen, first steps happen in the daycare, first words happen in the daycare, and they want to be able to know those things, but they miss out on it because they have put their children in daycare. And this woman continued to run the traditional brick and mortar daycare style. One day, Shona, on the same street, another daycare opened. Guess what? This daycare came with webcam, live interaction. You can view the kids in class. You can see them. You can hear them. You can watch them. So if your child is taking the first step, my dear, you would see your child that first step. You can auto record, go back and watch it later in the evening. Document it for your own record. Tell me why I would not remove my own son from my friend's daycare and move it to a better daycare on the same street. Let me make it worse for you. The person who opened the second daycare used to be a client or a customer of my friend's daycare. When she was not listened to, she raised the fund and set up her own daycare. Listen to your customers and adjust. Those are seriously important points. One other point I still have here is wanting to grow very fast. You want to go too fast. You just woke up this morning and then you see that everybody's making it through this path. This is what they are doing. And then you follow suit. What is your expertise? What is your passion? What is your growth strategy? What is your development strategy? Are you doing this because you want to blow like everybody else? Because you want to meet President Obama? You want to meet President Biden? Is that why you are doing this? Is that why you have joined the YALI Network? Is that why you have applied for Mandela Washington Fellowship? What is the rationale? What is your driving force? What is moving you? What is pushing you? Those are questions that you must, again, answer quietly one day in darkness in your room when there's no electricity and you're just there, just you in the heat, trying to think about your life. Ask yourself those questions and answer it as honestly and as truthfully as possible. Thank you very much, Shona.
Thank you, Adepeju, for that. Very, very good. And that's also a great segue into the next question that I have for Shay. You work with many young entrepreneurs, and maybe you have seen perhaps some of the challenges and mistakes that Adepeju mentioned firsthand in your experience. So what advice would you have for entrepreneurs who are just starting out, brand new? If they were to ask you, what advice would you give to me to be successful? What would you say?
Okay, the first advice I'm going to give is start with a very solid business plan. Outline your goals, and you also outline your goals, your target market, define your financial projection. That's the first advice I'll give you. And then the second is do a market research, do a good market research, understand your competition, your competitors, and then also your customer needs. You need to understand your customer needs. I think Virgil has also mentioned that. And then you have to be able to build a strong relationship. Network is key to success. You have to understand your network. You have to build a very strong network. Embrace continuous learning. That's the second, the fourth. You have to embrace continuous learning. Stay updated on industry trends and also adapt with changes. You have to be able to adapt with changes. And then the other is don't be afraid to fail. In business, you have to fail. So be ready for it. Because when you are ready to fail, you will learn from your mistakes and see them as an opportunity for growth. So don't be afraid to fail. And then the other is persistence and resilience. Challenges are always there. You cannot run away from challenges. So you have to stay focused on your vision. The challenges are coming, stay focused on your vision. The other aspect is prioritize your customers. I'm coming back to the last point. We have to prioritize our customers. Build loyalty with your customers through excellent service. You make sure you build loyalty through excellent service, and also seek guidance, mentorship, learn from experienced entrepreneurs, because it's from there that you will be able to learn. And also take good care of yourself. Balance your work and your personal life for growth. If you are not able to balance that, you will have a lot of challenges. And the last point is be passionate and believe in your ideas. Just be passionate, believe in your ideas, be optimistic, and know that you're going to you are your driving you are the steering, you are the engine to your business. So you have to believe and you have to be passionate and believe in your idea. So thank you. I'll end there because I know we are battling with time. So I'm trying to meet up. Thank you, Chanel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. We're actually getting close to the end of this particular segment of questions. So I have the next question, which will be for Chad. Oftentimes, innovation is the key to startups and small businesses, especially in this day and age. It seems like there's a competition for who can out-innovate, if you will, the other. But we know that that comes with risks. So could you speak to how entrepreneurs should balance innovation and the practicalities of running and building a sustainable business? Chad.
Thank you. Well, I think when it comes to innovation, the reality is that an innovation has got to have value to the target audience. An innovation has got to have commercial value. That is, because if it doesn't have commercial value, it means you don't have customers. If you don't have customers, it means whatever you're doing is not a business, it's a hobby. So it's finding that nexus where whatever you're building meets customers at their point of need, number one. Number two, it's ensuring that if you are building, you don't become overly obsessed with the idea of building. You don't become overly obsessed with the idea of, I want to build something that's unique, something that's peculiar. Because uniqueness is not, does not help you in any way as long as it does not serve the customer. If the things that you consider to be valuable are not the very same things that your customer considers to be valuable, then in essence, you do not have a business. You have a very expensive hobby that will likely, bankrupt you. So how do you balance that? Because creators want to create, they are so passionate about building something. Number one, I think it's important to have a minimum viable experiment. Quickly harness, feedback from your market. Use that feedback to build a minimum viable product. Before you build the whole full-scale thing, get as much interaction with the real world so that whatever you're building, no matter how innovative it is, it's in sync with the expectations of or the needs of the market that you're targeting. Number two, creators tend to focus on the product. The product is not the business. The business exists when customers actually pay for what you are selling. So it's always great to have yourself as an innovator sitting somewhere and realizing that you need other skill sets, because the skills required to innovate are different from the skills required to run a business. The skills required to build a product are different from the skills required to actually create something that is commercially viable. So you need someone who's going to be able to talk to people. You need someone who's going to be able to sell. You need someone who's going to be customer facing. Whilst you are solution, tinkering, engineering a product, you need someone who's going to look at the other side. The other issue is that to avoid over-engineering products, it's always great to figure out what one or two issues that you really want to solve. Because sometimes, the things that we consider as innovation are simply a bunch of solutions to a bunch of problems that no one is willing to pay for. So streamlining and getting that into one space where it becomes easy to package for the market, because ultimately, if you confuse, you lose. Right? If you confuse your market because you've put too much features, because you've over-engineered your product, you will lose. And then lastly, there is this cliche that says a good product sells itself. I don't know where that exists, but in the real world, that's seldom the case. You have to really put in the effort to get the product out there, to get the right feedback incorporated so that there is a commercial case. And once again, as I mentioned, if you have a product that does not have customers, you do not have business. Your business starts when you've got ready, willing, and able customers who can sustain it. Anything else is but an expensive hobby. Anything else becomes superficial. I think, like Adepeju mentioned, there's a lot of pitchpreneurs that have come out in, where people are just pitching for money, they get money, but they can't really build a business. It's a hobby. It's nothing more than a business. And sometimes it actually borders on fraud, where people are fraudulently going to get money because they've built something that they claim has importance in some non-existent world. And then when you actually go into the real world, there's absolutely no value being derived. There's no commercial value. It cannot sustain itself. It's not scalable. It's not profitable. You cannot repeat it without the artificial conditions that the grant money may provide, without the artificial conditions that the money that you want from a competition may provide. So you've got to really build for customers and meet them at their point of need. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Ed. So before we go on to the next segment, which is the Q&A from the audience, I would like to ask one final question to you all. What is the one thing you are most proud of in your entrepreneurial journey? And we can start with you, Adepeju.
So one thing that I am most proud of in my entrepreneurship journey is the ability, my ability to have been able to inspire others to also start their own entrepreneurial journey. For me, it's a big deal because, you see, I like to demystify. I like to show people that this thing is not as hard as you think it is. I like to show people that you don't have to be of a certain class to be able to rise. You don't have to be of a certain network to be able to do something. You can actually, through the woods, through the grass, find your way and rise. And that thing gives me so much joy. Every single time someone reaches out to me and says that, oh, they have started something, because, oh, they met with me somewhere and I said this and they are able to do this, gives me a lot of joy, gives me a lot of also, for a better world, so to speak. I mean, also makes me happy and joyful for the communities that these fires too would light, and the other people that would take out of their light to light their own paths. Gives me a lot of joy. The ability to lighten or brighten the paths of others so that they see more clearly in their own journey. And it is completely irrelevant if they get there before me, completely irrelevant if they rise even higher than I have risen. The fact that I lighted their path and created light for them to journey on their own is more than enough and gives me a whole lot of joy.
Great. Glad to hear it. And over to you, Shay. Same question.
Okay. I think one of the most amazing thing about my entrepreneurial journey is the aspect of mentorship. Being so proud of the fact that I've been able to guide 80 young people who got grants for their businesses and did not know how to go about after the grant. I think when I was working in one of the rural communities in where my community in the southwest region in Boya, I met a businesswoman who had close to $3,000, and she did not know what to do with it. She went in for a different business, and through the evaluation, they had to divert her business plan. So when she got the money, she was having difficulties in being able to go through the business. So after our mentorship session, I remember one evening she called me and she was so excited that her business, she has been able to finally open the business and the business is running. And that was the greatest joy I have because I'm from a family where My mom do petty business. As a single mother with 6 of us, I'm the fourth, and she do petty business without mentorship. She struggled from her, and I was able to see a woman, a young lady, being able to start her business and being excited that her business is booming and she's going to sustain the business. So those are the most important thing in my entrepreneurial business that I'm so proud of. The aspect of mentorship, inspiring other young people to be able to stand, and also my consistency. Yeah, my consistency actually keeps me. I'm very proud of it because from my family, it's just I and my younger brother who has gone to university. So looking at from my uncles to my mother and then my siblings, I and my younger brother, and people like, how did you come here? You are able to navigate with government stakeholders, navigate with other stakeholders within the community, and just that alone inspires a lot of people to start and to know that nothing stops you from being who you want to be. So I'm so proud of that about myself and the aspect of inspiring people. Thank you.
Thank you. Very inspiring words, and the personal, the touch of your family background and your story, I think really adds to the strength of that. So I really appreciate that. And last but certainly not least, the same question to you: what has made you proud, Chad?
Thank you. So the first entrepreneur that I knew I got to know was my dad, who ran a family business in rural Shamba here in Zimbabwe. And the one thing that was quite impressive for me was the ability to create jobs even in a rural community. So I've always been passionate about creating jobs. So I'm quite proud of the fact that one, I stepped away from a well-paying corporate job to go into full-time entrepreneurship, opening up an opportunity for someone to occupy the position that I occupied, number one. Number two, I've been able to sustain my entrepreneurial lifestyle for the past 6 years outside formal employment. Number three, I've been able to create jobs directly through my work. And number four, the clients that I work with as a management consultant have been able to indirectly create jobs, possibly more jobs that I could directly create. So the thing that I'm most proud of is the fact that I have believed that entrepreneurship has got the power to unlock Africa's potential, in particular to create a transition from the huge amount of work that's there to be done in Africa. I always say that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in Africa, but there are not enough jobs being created to make sure that the work is done. So I am happy because I've been part of an ecosystem that has allowed myself as well as other people to create jobs and opportunities for other people so that the work that needs to be done can actually be done. Thank you.
Great, wonderful, thank you. And that brings us now into the final segment of our program today, which is the Q&A from the audience. So I'd like to ask you all to just bear with me as I pull up at least one or two questions from the chat. Okay, I see we have a few, or a lot of comments rather, on finding a mentorship. A lot of talk about the importance of mentorship, but we'd like to know, it looks like the audience would like to know, how do you actually go about finding a good mentor? So I'm not going to call on anyone in particular. I'm going to open it up to the floor for you all to volunteer. Anyone want to take it?
Can I start?
Sure, go ahead, Shay.
Okay, I think the first thing I would say, finding a good mentor, you have to first of all look at your goals. What are your goals of you do? What are your personal goals, and what do you want to achieve? When you are able to identify your goals and you identify and you drafted them out, you go now in scouting. Who do I think can really help me within your network of maybe teachers, lecturers, leaders within the community that you are close to, or wherever wherever, you identify who aligns with that. Because I remember while going through, I want to also go through, because I was going through the question, I realized somebody was like, how do you help, how do you handle a mentor who is not accountable? When you are able to identify a mentor that aligns with your vision, with your goals, the mentor automatically becomes accountable to you, because you people are working in one, you are addressing one issue within the community. He is interested, or she is interested in what you are doing, and he has gone through it, he has gone through the challenges, so he will be able to help you out. So the first thing that I would say, because I want to give the floor to other panelists, maybe to chip in, is to be able to draft out your goals well, and then you identify who aligns with that goals and has experience within that and is interested in solving that problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Chad or Adepeju, would you like to add anything to that?
Okay, so just to add a bit to what Shay said, I think about the people who approach me for mentorship, and I think about what really impresses me the most about them. And I would also like to share some of it today, which is one, people who don't start on ground zero. Like you're approaching a mentor, you want somebody to mentor, you have done all what Shay has said, but tell me, how have you proved to yourself that you're a self-starter? What step have you taken? It can be in terms of developmental courses. It can be in terms of growth that you have engaged in. It can be in terms of even doing something low scale. So you're not coming on ground zero to me. You are actually coming to say that, look, I know that I'm headed somewhere. This is my blueprint. I know that you are better experienced. I know you would be able to help me check this out. You know, if this works, what I can tweak, what I need to do. But I'm not coming with you empty to say, okay, I want to be this person and then there's nothing, or I want to be able to raise $1 million. And then I ask you how, and you have no business. You have no idea for business. You want me to generate business ideas for you on how to cash out? You join MMM or any other Ponzi scheme. It doesn't work that way with mentoring, you know? So you do not start. I do not think you should start on ground zero. Remember that mentors are usually very busy. So they are constantly impressed with people who they can also have intelligent discussions with. They people who they know that by the time I put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bricks, in addition to the 1, 2 bricks that this person has laid, this person would be able to write. And this person is well on their way to success. Because whether you like it or not, everybody wants to be able to identify success. Mentors identify potential and help you build that potential. Your potential is not starting on ground zero. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to give Chad the opportunity to close out that particular question, if you'd like. Chad.
Thank you. So for me, I think mentors come in different packages. I want to speak of mentors from a distance. As Adepeju pointed out, mentors are usually busy people, and sometimes they're not people that you even approach and sit down with. They could be a mentor from a distance. This could be people that you're observing from a distance and you're learning from. And then for those whom you approach, for me, what I've learned is that because they've got a lot of people who are asking them to mentor them, they become overwhelmed. And you don't want to become an ETC. You don't want to become just like another mentee who's amongst the hundreds or the thousands of people who are knocking on their door. So you've got to have value that you offer. You've got to have a value proposition, not just for your own benefit, but something that you can say, hello, mentor, this is ABC, my value proposition to you. And I've done this in the past. One of my mentors is someone that I wrote to. I saw they posted something online and I wrote that I wanted to help them with what they were trying to do. They were trying to run some initiative and they needed volunteers. And my access to that mentor was through volunteering to their work. So I became valuable to them. And in the process, I became closer to them and they allowed me into their space enough for them to guide me through my work. So we have to be creative in terms of how we approach them because they are busy people. they're being bombarded by other people who are asking them for help. How is our value proposition different? Comes down to that.
Great, thank you. And I believe we may have time for just one more question from the live chat. I have one here from Abdul Rahman Dukurai, who is asking, how can startups leverage on emerging trends in AI to keep up with an evolving business ecosystem whilst competing with big firms or business organizations? And perhaps this question, because I know we had spoken about innovation a bit earlier, so perhaps, Chad, you'd like to start off on this question. And I'd like to remind everyone, if we could just keep it to maximum 1.5 minutes each. Over to you, Chad.
All right, awesome. So I want to say this. Number one, for any innovation or technology to function, it requires complementary pieces of other technology to function. Number two, when a new technology is introduced to a market, early stage, no one really knows what business model or economic value it carries. So early stage, there's going to be a lot of people who flood into the space with an assumption that they're going to make money. If we are talking about AI, in my view, right now it's about integrating AI into the work that you do to make it more efficient. As regards the commercial business model or value proposition, that's probably going to take a couple of years to really evolve for it to really be functional for most African businesses. And why do I say this? I've seen that a lot of people have, created platforms, and they're trying to raise capital for those without necessarily looking at the direction that AI is going to take. Maybe, just maybe, AI will become a commodity like the internet. The person who created the internet did not actually monetize the internet itself. It's the business models that have come on, whether they are ed tech, health tech, search engines, etc., that have been actually able to monetize. So maybe if AI becomes a commodity, we've got to figure out what that actual value proposition, what that actual value that an entrepreneur can derive is. Otherwise, it becomes hype and no substance. So we've got to be very careful to avoid a scenario where we get something overhyped and everybody flocks into that space without, one, the complementary pieces of technology, number two, without a very clear path in terms of how they intend to create value, deliver value, and monetize off that. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. And I will turn it over to Adepeju. I think you touched on innovation a bit earlier too in your remarks. We'd be happy to have you expand on that.
Right, thank you very much, Shona. So as Chad was speaking, I kept on thinking about this question, this AI innovation. I think that it's a very, very good innovation. However, I think that a lot of education still needs, to go into it as regards to people in communities and people in Africa, even educated people, because you see, let's be very practical here. Many of us, many Africans, many Nigerians, have trust issues. And this is why even when the ATM pays you your money, you will stand in front of the ATM and count it to be sure it is correct before you leave the ATM. So there's that trust issue right there. There's also the back end of religious insinuation. So you have AI. AI is only good for when you say, Meta, what does this mean? You can do that one. Meta, Alexa, play me a song. But when it comes to parting with your money to a machine, somebody you cannot hold like this to say, give me back my money, that's where many Africans draw the line. That's where they don't cross. But if it's in terms of research, development, writing papers, and stuff, they are all for AI. But when it comes to dip your hand in your money, part with it, and pay to an AI, they don't want to hear about it. So there's a lot of education that still needs to go into this. And that is why many businesses, look at it, the people who sell online, because I was reading a document today, a research paper, the people who sell online actually sell more via their DMs when people feel like they are talking to human beings than when they direct them to their website to say order from the website and make payment on the website. That's why people draw the line too. They don't want to part money to somebody or a pigment, somebody they think that they cannot see, they cannot hold, they cannot jack, they cannot report, they cannot go and drag to say my money, my product, my things. So that is the issue with AI right now. There's a lot, it's absolutely fantastic innovation, you know, and I see robots, people moving up and down. I watch developed countries, I see China, they even have a name for the robots, you know, robots serving things. But where Africans draw the line is when a pastor tells them that the AI is possessed. That's where you know that, you know, there are issues. So there's still a lot of education, you know, to go into all this. And hopefully, you know, as time goes on, as the years roll by, we'll be able to fully embrace technology and everything that technology offers. Thank you.
Thank you for a very real response. And I will turn it over to Shay to close off that particular question about AI.
Okay, I think the first thing is like Adepeju said, we need literacy, media literacy. We should be able to, for us to be able to integrate AI, we should be able to have a knowledge on information sourcing. We should learn on information sourcing. AI, we are just adapting with AI, and we think AI is chat that is sitting somewhere, and then we ask chat a question and chat just come up and then bam, you receive your response. No, AI is beyond that. So we have to be able to get skills on information sourcing and how to use AI to be able to source information that will help our businesses grow. And not just on information sources, but we need also skills on media literacy. I think a lot of Africans are lacking in that area. We just want to do shortcuts. Like we'll have a lot of plagiarism today with AI. Like Pedro said, we trust to ask AI a question to answer than trusting other systems with our money. We should be able to train ourselves to be able to understand the media, to understand the digital aspect of every aspect, because technology has come to stay, especially for Africans, young business. You should know that technology is here to stay. So let's, before we use AI ethically, let's be able to learn how to use technology. Let's learn how to source out information. Let's get skills on digital literacy. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, that closes out the session. Thank you to all of our panelists for your time and your insights today. Each one of you brought a unique perspective, and you're an inspiration to our network members. And to the audience and everyone tuning in, I hope that this has encouraged you to take the next step on your own entrepreneurial journeys. The YALI Entrepreneurs campaign is still ongoing for another couple weeks and will culminate during the Global Entrepreneurship Week, November 18th through 24th. Make sure you're following us on social media. Sign up for the YALI Network at yali.state.gov to stay updated. Thank you all for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.